There's a science to getting a project off the ground from start to finish. It's called project management. A serious competition is taking place in West Michigan among up-and-coming managers. It's called The Project. We'll discuss that along with the business and economic impacts on West Michigan Week. And thank you for joining us on West Michigan Week. On the panel, Dave Murray, MLive Media Group. How are you, sir?
Wonderful.
Excellent. And we have Jim Mitchell, Chairman, Principal Attorney at Mitchell Intellectual Property Law. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
You're wearing a fine Chrysler suit.
Thank you. Fritz Chrysler, my Fritz Chrysler suit.
It's beautiful. And
Thank you.
Ted Kallman, VP Marketing, Project Management Institute at the West Michigan chapter, Western Michigan chapter.
That would be true.
This is a great experience, mostly for students. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the project's been around for a couple years now.
This competition is in its second year right now.
The brainchild behind this, where was the spark, and how did it proliferate from?
It was mostly a cramp
during
a meeting.
Yep.
Well, the West Michigan chapter has various ways to try and reach into the community. They have a vice president of education, and we train in project management, we do certification training, but they were trying to find a way to combine business, education, and the chapter as an association in an integrated way. So they formed a council. We have people from the different universities and people from the business community, as well as project managers and certified professionals, and they had formed this council in the fall 2.5 years ago, and they were, I had joined it a few months in. And they were looking for a way to do this and saying, well, we could do this or we could do this. And so I was at the table and I said, well, why don't we do a college competition? And everybody around the table goes, that's a great idea. Yeah. So then he said, so who's going to lead this? He got real quiet. And I was supposed to be in London on a project. And I said, look, I can put it together and help you initiate it. But if I go to London on this project, somebody else is going to have to pick up the ball. And so by default, I ended up being the project manager and the lead for the project and putting it all together and structuring it for the first year, along with Kelly Talsma from Amway, who is the VP of Education. So she and I were sort of the tag team that drove the project through the first year and had a very successful project that actually we found out later. Sometimes it's better not to know that it's never been done and couldn't be done. And PMI got very excited because it had never been done before in the universe of PMI, the Project Management Institute. And so they actually brought us out to present at the Leadership Institute in Vancouver last October because this is something that had never been done before. So we're getting a lot of recognition for our chapter, and it's got a lot of recognition in the community. And so the things we were trying to do to coalesce education with business and the chapter all came together around this competition with the schools that got involved.
So what's the criteria of this competition? You have groups of students from different institutions, right?
Yep.
And you throw out a project that they're supposed to work on. I mean, how has this all come together?
So we come up with a project that they all do. So they're all putting together their project plans that they all are focused on delivering a project, but it's all done their way.
And it's just a real-world project,
It's a real-world project.
Yeah. Is it the same project?
All doing the same project.
Okay.
And so like the first year we had Fred Keller is one of our judges, and Jim was useful in getting Fred involved. He's a good friend with Fred Keller, and so I grabbed Jim and I said, get Fred. And Fred's been a great judge and a great help, and he had got the triple bottom line with his B Corp certification as the only manufacturing company that was B Corp certified. So we had the college competition create a project for how a company could become B Corp certified. And each school team put together their own plans on how they would do it as a project, and then they had to pitch their final plans to the panel of executive judges, which included Carol Valade, Fred Keller, Jim Mitchell, and we had Dick Postumus and Matt Van Breken from Spectrum. So we had seasoned executives that these college students were now pitching their project as if it was going to be funded to an executive panel, and it's a real-world experience. And so they had to put together their project plans based upon the standardized principles of PMI and the PMBOK, which is project management standardization. It's the only standard in the world used by ISO and ANSI for project management.
Folks at home right now are going, huh? What?
ISO.
Folks at home,
going,
heck, I'm not too sure.
ISO? Yeah. It's the
Break down your acronyms.
International Standards Organization. So when manufacturers say they're ISO certified,
Sure.
the project management certification is PMI's PMBOK,
Gotcha.
which is the project management body of knowledge. And ANSI is your American National Standards Institute, so it's the ANSI standard for manufacturing for automotive and other manufacturing standards. An intellectual property attorney would probably understand that.
He's got a red face watching this.
He was just getting glazed over.
I got the message. ISO is a good thing.
So they're following a standard in how they're putting it together. Each team had a certified project manager mentor and a champion from the school, a professor who was working with them to put together their project plans. They had to go through the different stage gates of doing it. We threw some wrenches in that, some real world changes that they weren't expecting. And then at the end, they each did a 10-minute presentation to the executive panel of judges and had then determined who was the winner based upon all of that in the competition.
And there's some money involved there too, right? The winners.
We had $10,000 in prize money, $5,000 to the winning team. This station, what's the name of this station again?
WGVU.
WGVSU. What was the winning team last year? Oh, that's right, Grand Valley.
Oh, nice.
So the winning team last year was the Grand Valley team. And what was interesting with that crew, their mentor, Ben from Amway, had tied them to Irving Seating and actually had Irwin Seating go through with their sustainability council as if Irwin was going to become a B Corp certified corporation. And they had real world input into their project, which was a really unique approach and sort of set them apart as a team in going through the process.
So the students were solving one of Irwin Seating's issues or problems?
Right.
It was a
work
potential.
product that Irwin could
But
have
that's what we
adopted.
want here, right?
Right.
Yeah, we want a work product that some company could actually adopt.
Right.
Yeah.
This week, both Patrick and I sat down with Governor Snyder, and he talked to me about finding new ways for business or the private sector and education to work more closely together. And he talked about when he was at Gateway, they had a program with the local community college where his company went to the college and said, these are the problems that we're having, these are the jobs, the skill sets we need. What can you do? And in the end, they had people come right from the community college to work for his company. What would this sounds like exactly the kind of thing where people are looking to students or universities and saying, here's a need that we have, how can you help us fill it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What will it take to replicate this? I've just expanded your job many times now, but what would it take to replicate this all over the place?
Well, we've already been approached by about 15 different chapters around the country, Houston, New York City, Long Island, and who have said, this is amazing what you guys are doing. Can you help us gear one of these up for ourselves? Fort Worth, Texas, Nashville is looking at it as well. And what we're doing is we're trying to hone our own process. So in year 2, it's not quite as life-threatening as year 1 in getting through the competition. As a matter of fact, I got a call from Jim halfway through the first one saying, Kallman, what did you get me into? And we worked through it. But and so we were working our process out, and then we want to do a statewide competition, not next year, but the year after, and have all the state of Michigan involved. And PMI Educational Outreach, our keynote speaker this year is Saul Spevak, who is the PhD that leads that for PMI. He's coming in as our keynote speaker for the competition next Tuesday. And they have in their mind that this could be a national competition within a few years, and they're using our template and structure to be the genesis for that because it's been so successful.
I think it's also going to take a well-crafted legal agreement that you need to talk to.
Know any firms that could help us, Jim?
Well, it's like hopping into the Wayback Machine with Mr. Peabody and Sherman and going back in time to when you're in college. I mean, this seems pretty intimidating. You're not an intimidating guy, Jim, but there you are on the panel with other people who are prominent in the community, who know their stuff, and you're a college kid, and you're presenting. Right. I know that there are multiple layers here. I mean, you have the people who are good at presenting. You have people that are good with the nuts and bolts of a project. Right. Are you able to determine how everyone is performing in the process? Is it the presentation that really has to stand out? I mean, as a judge, what are you looking for?
Well, the students were all excellent.
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
the
they
students.
really were. The presentations were all, in terms of, you know, quality of presenting material and presenting ideas, they all did very, very well. So, you know, that certainly is a factor. You want to see, I mean, our job is to judge them just as though we were on the board of directors and we've got these people coming in who are trying to pitch the company to invest some money. So that's the way we judge them. And, you know, part of that is doing a good job in the presentation. And then the rest is having good, solid ideas and a good plan for attacking the ideas. And so it's basically those three components that we look to.
And I'm going to imagine that there were some individuals who stood out, and there was interest with some of the judges and some of the corporations involved.
Yeah, I think there is a reverse a job fair associated with this program. Right. We offer you know, the kids an opportunity to meet with prospective employers prior to the actual contest. I mean, earlier in the day.
And a reverse career fair is where the students actually have a table and their resume and their cards, and the companies are actually going table to table to the students. So it's the reverse of them going to a job fair and talking to companies. Right. The companies are actually talking to them. So last year we had probably 70% of our students who were involved in the project last year had internships or jobs within a few months of the project.
Wow.
And so that's another reason the academic world is interested, because from a placement point of view, it gives visibility to these students in ways that they probably couldn't have had. We had one gal that was at Phoenix University that JCs were looking for somebody in what they were doing, and one of the people in the executive level of the school said, well, this gal over here just knocked it out of the park in that project competition. You should talk to her. And she got a job as a result of being involved in the competition.
Yeah.
Were these grad students, undergrads?
Undergrads.
We had one grad student from GVSU that sort of slid in, but it was really focused on undergrads.
How many of these students, too, then, have shifted gears in the direction that they're going in? I mean, they may have entered the competition thinking, well, I'm suited here, but then, again, seeing how all, the totality of a project, do they find a better niche for themselves?
We had at least 4 students last year who actually switched their major to focus on project management. Even though the schools themselves didn't have a major, they focused their major in order to come out with a more of a project focused, and now they're pursuing masters in project management. You can actually earn a PhD in project management as well. One of the board members for PMI International is a professor in project management at Eastern Michigan University. And so it's a whole career path that a lot of people don't understand is out there. And it's also something that's exploding on the career horizon. Project management is one of the hottest jobs out there as far as the need versus the supply. So right now there's over 100,000 jobs where a PMP certified practitioner is required or preferred. And there's only 400,000 credentialed PMP holders in the world. So that's a short market chasing, a long market chasing a short supply. And if you take it one step farther to agile project management, which is another subset of project management, a year ago on Simply Hired, they had 16,000 jobs available if you searched Scrum. And today, you would get 436,000 jobs available with the same type of project management search. It's just exploding in opportunity.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more on project management and the competition called The Project in just 1 minute. And we're back with more West Michigan Week. We're talking about The Project, which is a competition focusing on project management with university students. I feel like I buried the lead here. By definition, what is project management? I went online, I think I know a lot of things, but this was one where it's a little bit tricky. Those acronyms were difficult
It's in
to
great
digest
demand, though.
earlier, but it is in demand. It is in demand. What is it
They can't
exactly?
describe it, but everybody wants it.
Well, you know, I mean, any time in business that you're going to introduce a new product, for example, or you know, a new service, there are a number of things you have to think about and work through, and basically that's a project. At Michigan Tech, the great emphasis on in the business school is on managing the engineering enterprise, and you know, the projects involved in taking a product concept from start to finish. In the law, I do a lot of litigation, and each lawsuit is really a project management project. You have to manage each phase, you have to strategize, you look at the cost of each phase, try to figure out how to minimize your costs and maximize your return, and you do A first and then B, or maybe you might put C ahead of B or whatever, you know, but it's a project. Handling a piece of litigation is a project management project.
Cost, time, quality, is that kind of the recipe?
The triple
involved in?
constraints, absolutely. That's
See, I
always
did a
part of
little
it.
research.
There you go. That's right. So why don't you run with that?
That's good. Well done.
We'll keep going.
There you
Well
go.
done.
There you go. Well, the simple definition is a project is anything that has a clear start and a clear ending, where you're creating a product, service, or result for a business, a nonprofit, a law office. There's actually a subgroup within PMI for people that manage legal offices in project management. And so all those disciplines, from construction to NASA to manufacturing to healthcare, all have different ways that they'll approach project management, but there are elements that are all the same. You have to start the project, you have to plan the project, you're going to execute what you've planned. Oh, we didn't think about that. You have to have change control in your execution, so you're monitoring and controlling those aspects of it. And eventually, when it's all done, you close it in an appropriate way that everything's wrapped up tight and everything's done. And that's the methodology of project management that the PMBOK provides as a standard, with its 5 process groups and 9 knowledge areas that are the international standard for project management. But the simple thing is, I have to get something done. It's going to start, it's going to end, and how do I tie those two things together? That's project management.
Just the person doesn't actually have hands-on in the project, but it's kind of the cat herder, make sure everyone else.
It goes both
Kinda,
ways.
okay.
Sometimes you'll have a person who's a subject matter expert who really gets it, and they're neck deep in actually doing it with the team. Other times you'll have a project manager who doesn't know a thing about it, but they're herding the cats, and they're making sure that all the touch points are happening, all the communications are going to the right people in the appropriate way, and all of that's a part of project management. Ultimately, the project manager is your communicator, making sure that the right people are engaged, that they're communicated with, that the executive team gets what they need in the way they need to get it, right? And so that's all a huge part of project
So a
management.
lot of diplomatic skills here, a lot of people skills.
Absolutely.
So these aren't necessarily your engineers, your lawyers, or your doctors, folks. These are communication majors. I mean, what kind of folks?
Well, and that,
go into
if
this?
you look at the project last year,
You're looking for a job.
Well, no,
That's
it's going to give my business card, slide it across the table.
That's right.
I'm very happy with my job. I just want to say that right now. Okay.
before this gets out, that's
Yeah,
right.
right.
Last year, the kids were largely from business colleges.
Okay.
From the business.
But the
right?
Aquinas team last year was a group out of sustainability.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so they had nothing to do with business, and they were just all in sustainability and green management, and they were one of the teams. We had
How'd they do?
that
They did well.
team.
They did well.
They did fine. They weren't in the
Well,
finals.
they all did well, you know, really.
That's
They
diplomatic.
all did well. Well, they did.
It's a tough
it's
crowd.
true.
You got to
Yeah,
please.
it's that's right.
It's true.
Not everybody can win.
Not everybody can win.
Yep. So, but we've had engineering, business, out of computer operations and IT, information technology is a huge area in project management, because IT, all they do is manage projects. I'm going to install new servers. I'm going to try to make sure the website's up for MLive. And all of those are projects that you have to go through, And all of those will be approached a little bit differently, but you got the main elements that you're going to follow in delivering on your project.
These guys are covering the people in the real world. Are they doing multiple projects at once, or do they focus on one at a time? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And I should say absolutely.
Well, that makes us project managers.
Here we go. I like it. And I'm in demand now.
You probably are, you just didn't know it.
Yeah.
You know, as lawyers, we're managing a lot of projects at once, I can tell you that.
So right now I'm working with Grand Rapids Community College, helping them optimize their project management office. And they have a couple of project managers managing all of the projects across the IT reach within the University of Grand Rapids Community College. And so one has 12 projects, another one has 10 or 15 projects, that they're managing the flow of all of those projects through to completion, but they're not delivering the actual programming or the installations or those types of things. They're really managing the operational flow of that. If they were more tactical and hands-on, you couldn't do that many projects.
Right.
So they really are professional in their project management.
Keep the trains running on time.
Exactly. And make sure the president's happy.
Right.
Dr. Enders? Yes, we're good.
When do you know a project is successful? Because when you have cost and quality involved, sometimes those are tricky to rein in. What's the best way to gauge success?
Well, in the law, it's when the jury or the judge renders the verdict. I mean, you know, it's pretty clear
Who brought the lawyer in
how
here?
well that project went off.
It's the emperor going up and down.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and can the project manager pull the plug on something in the middle and say, hey, is this not working? Or is it his job to make sure it works once the corporate team has decided to go in a direction?
Well, ultimately, the executive direction owns the vision and how that project fits into the vision. And what we try and do is coach people and school people on making sure that your project lines up and links with the strategic initiatives of the company, and what you're delivering is providing a value. And at the point it's not doing that, or your scope moves, and I says, well, we also wanted this, or now your cost changes, or your schedules shift, at some point it becomes unproductive or counterproductive to remain in the trench, and you have to put a bullet in the project. And it's really the job of the project manager to say, as a professional, I can't recommend that we continue on this trail. And so you get all of that mixed into it.
Gotcha.
Part of the management process is to build in checkpoints where you check back with the managers, the board.
Right.
And here's where we're at this point.
But ultimately, your success is defined at the beginning. If you can clearly define your success, what it is the output is, and narrow your scope down to that, you can manage the project to the delivery of that. And now your change control is as other things come in and change. Now, I know that doesn't happen in media, but out in business, people are always changing things, right?
We haven't changed anything.
I mean, you guys are so easy,
Yeah.
right? And no deadlines, no pressure.
None.
So you guys have it easy.
pressure.
But in project management, it's just managing the scope of that, and the job of the project manager is to communicate, manage the scope, talk about the risk of change,
Sure.
and the risk of opportunity. So all of that comes in managing that project.
How has new technology and a global marketplace changed project management?
I mean, Ted's the expert, believe me, but I think it's changed everything. I mean, you know, this technology that is at our disposal, the tools for managing things are just fantastic. I can't say enough about it. I have a friend I went to Michigan Tech with who became Mr. Intel Inside. You know, he was the guy that handled all of that project, and I say to him, you did more to change the way people live than anybody else who ever graduated from Michigan Tech. You know, I mean, it's just totally different. The way we manage a law office is totally different from when I started.
And it becomes easier to have virtual teams.
Yeah,
And
the way you manage a
contributors.
litigation project is totally different.
But does it heighten the level of competition?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you...
And the speed at which things
And the
transact.
speed, oh, the speed is amazing. You know, when I started to practice law, if you got back to it, if a client called you and you got back to them within, 3-4 days, they thought you were doing great, giving them great service. Now, hey, I sent you an email this morning, I haven't heard from you yet. I mean, it's instantaneous. People want things done right now.
But you don't want to get beat to the punch, and that's just it. When
Well,
things
that's
are
right.
moving at the
Exactly.
speed of
That's
sound. And
right.
you
We're-
mentioned pulling the plug on a project. I mean, how quickly is that happening now? Are there examples of that we
Well,
see?
absolutely. One of the things that when Grand Rapids Community College established their Office of PMO 18 months ago, 6 months in, they had 173 projects when they started. 6 months in, they said, we have to be able to prioritize this. So they put an executive team together of the deans and the senior executives, and they had a cage fight for those people to then decide which one's the highest priority. And then that can filter down through, and now you can deliver based upon the prioritization of your executives.
Cool. All right. Dave Murray, MLive Media Group.
Thank you, Patrick. I learned a lot today.
Got to cut to the cheat sheet here. Jim Mitchell, Chairman and Principal Attorney, Mitchell Intellectual Property Law.
Thank you.
For being here. And Ted Kallman, VP Marketing, Project Management Institute, Western Michigan Chapter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Competition is Tuesday.
Tuesday, April 16th at Davenport University. In the afternoon is the Final Four, and the evening is the awards presentation starting at 5 o'clock.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next week on West Michigan Week.